Because you've been getting tattooed a lot. Like you got some really rad work done. You got James Tex on you. You got some Teresa Sharp on your back. You got Jeff Gogu on your chest now.
I do.
You got Jeff Gogged on the. Anyways.
Oh shit.
Sorry, it's totally inappropriate. I stopped. I didn't say it. I didn't follow through.
Yeah.
But yeah. So like, how is it like? So obviously, like I was saying during the break, like I hold you on the same plane as them now, right? And and that's what I was really stoked about, like seeing you like really kicking ass and getting to you know to enjoy yourself in your career finally, you know what I mean? And like now that you've done the hard work and you've earned it, like you've been at the same joint for 14 years, like, and now you own it, you know what I mean? And you've put it like it's now, I would say it's a pretty big staple in the Edmonton industry, and Capital's always got a really strong name behind it. So like, now that you get to go and chat with those people, like how does it make you feel like now that you're
For me, it's surreal. It's really nice to be able to have worked that hard for so long and then be able to have the flexibility now to do those kinds of things. Because when I started getting tattooed by people that I idolize, I mean, I've been doing that from the beginning. I've always kind of wanted a collection. I've never really been tattooed by the same person more than twice. But it started out with people that I was friends with, and then I was sort of branching out to, I think, Teresa was one of the first people that I had never met in person and reached out to her online. And when it actually came to fruition, it was kind of like this, aha moment. This makes more sense to do it this way instead of just getting my buddies to tattoo me. This is like widening my circle. And I travel a lot. I also do have a lot of people that come in to my studio as guest artists. So it kind of started with Canada. I know a lot of people on the East Coast. I have a lot of friends in Toronto and Montreal, and it is nice going down to the States, or like I got tattooed in Ireland last year and meeting people and saying like, come to my joint, I'll show you what I have here. And it's nice. I don't know. It's the idea too of being able to go to any city and couch surf with some people.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah, it's fun. I've always been thankful that tattooing allows me to do that. I mean, we were talking about how stressful it is and like all the negatives of it that can like affect your mental health, but there's all these benefits that I can't imagine any other job providing. So
yeah, totally. It is quite unique.
Yeah, we're definitely blessed to be artists. Like to do this for a living. Like quite often, I'll be sitting there tattooing, I'll be kind of stressed out or whatever, and I'll be like, wait a minute, like I'm drawing a dragon right now on someone. Like it's pretty cool, like there's a lot of benefits. Like the cons are easy to talk about, but if you do it right, and I think that's going back to the apprentice thing, I think that that you want someone to go down the right path, like to do the things that you didn't do right or the things you wish you did differently. I don't know, that's at least how I felt, and if they accept it or not, it's one thing or another. But but yeah, like you're getting the benefits of everything that this industry has to offer, and it's really cool to see. Like it's really cool to see like these huge artists shouting your shit out. I think that's awesome.
It's a learning experience too. I have a newer artist that works for me, and he's improving leaps and bounds every day that I see him tattoo, and he wants to know what the next step he needs to take is. And one of the first things I said to him is go get tattooed by somebody, not just like your friend, but go get tattooed by somebody that you hold here, because just sitting there with them and watching what they do, seeing the technique of it and having it on you, and also picking their brain. You sit there, you don't need to ask him about his needles or his ink or anything, but like doing what we're doing right now with someone that you can collect something from is a huge learning experience. Every time I get tattooed, I feel like I come back to my studio and I do my job that much better, whether it's I'm more gentle or like numbing them a certain way, or just like aftercare. I'm constantly learning from getting myself tattooed, which is dope as fuck. So
that's awesome. That's sweet.
Yeah, being in a position, like being in a career where you're always learning, I think is very cool. It's always something like that's something that we talk about. You're always gonna learn a new thing, like a new way of tattooing this person, a new way of tattooing this kind of skin. Even if you're like having a rough week or something like that, and then you can go and get tattooed by someone, you know, that you were talking about, and you're like, you know what, I've been having a weird run of, you know, weenuses lately. How do you tattoo a rough weenus? And they'll, you know, you don't.
Stop doing
You
it.
just stop. But you know, even that is like a learning experience. It's like, okay, maybe.
And that's the thing is, artist block is a real thing. I feel like if anyone ever says they've learned as much as they can, that's when you plateau, and that's when you should reevaluate what you're doing, because you constantly want growth, right? You need to be pushing yourself, and whether that means doing a podcast or taking on a different medium. I've started watercolor painting this year, and I love it. It's a stress relief, and if it wasn't for that, then I'd get the fuck out of Edmonton and I'd go guest somewhere.
Totally. Yeah, your life is about action, right?
Yeah, you need to change your environment to make yourself consistent.
Yeah, stimulate yourself. Yeah,
for sure.
100%. We have one of your prints up there. It's cool.
It's weird.
It's got a boobie.
Just one. It's got a real small nipple too.
Yeah, there's a lot of boobs on that wall. Now that I think about it. And then I like my daughter's face, like right under them. It's kind of weird. I gotta move that. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about that. I think my mom will kill me. I'm already on her shit list. So. Yeah. Sorry. What were we talking about though? We're on to something really good there.
Getting tattooed by
artist
people
block.
you admire.
As I can't remember. Yeah, I think stimulation is a huge thing. Do you feel like, so when you talk about plateauing, and you see like, do you feel like artists that are at that caliber, at that level, are plateaued? Like I mean, like what, like how much better can like people get, like really, like once they get to that style, once they get like, you know, like you for example,
you can always improve.
Like, of course, don't get me wrong.
It's not even improving. It's just it's evolving, right? Like I do lady faces. That's my bread and butter, as I love doing them. But when I do 6 of them in a week, I need to cut it off for a bit, because it all starts morphing into one thing for me. Maybe not visually for anyone else, but for me, it's just a nose and a mouth and you know, people, the heavy hitters that we all look up to, that we all respect. I don't think that they really plateau because they've gotten to a certain level. They keep changing what they're doing, right?
Like subject matter wise, or the application, or
content wise, I guess. Like if you look at someone like Gogwe, he does dragons and he does them amazing, and they're so different than what everyone else does. But if he's feeling stagnant with that, he'll change the way the whiskers are or the scales are. Or one thing, when I was down there, he had a guest artist from Grand Reaper that was working there as well.
Okay.
And they did sort of a painting seminar on snakes. And Jeff was saying that he learned something about how a snake should always be moving forwards. So when the coils are going, you wrap them behind themselves so that the belly scales don't look weird. And he's been tattooing for years. He's drawn a million snakes, I'm sure, but just that one little bit of information from having a guest artist in his shop giving him this little tidbit has helped him like make sure that the belly scales make more sense. And that's an evolution for someone who we all feel knows what he's doing, right?
Yeah. I guess I wouldn't see that. Just based on the social media, until you go and chat them up or something like that. That's a good point. It's a really good point.
Yeah, that's the coolest thing about listening to artists kind of explain about their work, because then you're like, you don't even realize they've made decisions because of particular things. You're like, wow, that's awesome.
It's funny when that light bulb goes off when they explain it, and you're like, oh shit, how did I not know that?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I remember Danny Gordy teaching me how to draw a snake, talking about snakes. And I worked with him later in my career, like to the point where like I thought I was kind of good. Yeah. And then that guy really told me that I'm not good, and he showed me. But the thing is like once I took my licks from him, then he would show me what was up. And he like even that simple like drawing like an illustrative snake or whatever, like that simple like circle technique, and where you use like that's what this is. That's what this is. It was mind blowing. I was like blown away, and I just went home. I was drawing like curly straw. I was like, oh, I'm gonna draw curly straws, and I'm gonna draw dragons and snakes, and I guess that's pretty much the only thing. Spaghetti sticks. spaghetti noodles. But yeah, it was crazy. It's really crazy. And so, but I was, yeah, I just was always curious about, like, people that are at that level. It's like, what more can you teach someone? And like, do they get like bored or bland or stagnant or
I
something? I
think
don't know.
that's like a personal kind of quest you have to go on to
Mm-hmm.
like, your life is up to you. Like, you have to keep yourself stimulated.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be looking to be like, oh, like I'm just gonna keep climbing this ladder and then it's never gonna end. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you have to actively choose to change yourself or evolve yourself. I think
Mm-hmm.
Well,
it's got
and
to be conscious.
people are constantly going through change in their personal life as well, which does reflect in our art.
Totally.
People go through breakups or fall in love or they have fears, and I think that some of the best art that's created comes from a spot of, your personal emotions. If you're sad about
Absolutely.
something, you get a lot of shit done. You get a lot of
Mm-hmm.
drawing done, and it changes the way you draw, whether it's something that's a little bit more gothic or creepy, or if you're
Mm-hmm.
really happy, it's like new school, whatever it is that, your personal life also affects what you're doing. The people around you affects what you're doing.
Absolutely. Like I remember, like when I was really young, I used to be a really bad alcoholic, and I like painted watercolors, and I was like had this really unique watercolor style painting. But then once I got out of that part of my life, I could never really replicate it again. And
Yeah.
it was like, yeah, and that's like, and I tried to like paint that way, and it just didn't work. It was weird.
Yeah.
It's a phase.
Yeah.
It's good. I'm glad I'm in where I'm now, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just interesting to see the change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. So the style. So you would classify yourself as like a neo-trad artist now?
Yeah.
Okay, and so, like, do you think that social media has really helped with the access to that specific style to make it like, okay, so what we're talking about, like how it's there's more access to artists. Do you think it's helping evolve those styles quicker and get access to those artists? Like, do you think like that's kind of where you're like that's where you found your success, or like how where do you think like you became the most successful?
Tattoo conventions.
Oh, okay.
Because before I started gaining a following, it was me networking at
Right.
tattoo conventions and
Right.
meeting people from Icon who
Right.
I've made a really strong relationship with, and
Right.
introducing myself to artists that I admired, and sort of just making connections that way.
Mhm.
And that's where my following started boosting,
Right.
because these people are your friends now, and they
Right.
follow you, and then they're
Like the cross
clients follow
promotion
you.
almost, yeah.
But winning awards at shows definitely helped boost my career.
Mhm.
And that was, I think it's very important to set goals for yourself.
Mhm.
One of them was to own my own studio. One
Mhm.
of them was to win an award. And
Mhm.
my actual goal this year was to do more painting, is
Mhm.
to step outside of tattooing, not give it up, but to do something different with my art.
And do you think that painting is because of the relationships that you've developed in the last year?
Like the probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing though, is like also having people under me who want to learn, is
Mhm.
I want something else to teach them other than just tattooing. So
Right. Fair enough.
yeah, I need to expand.
So did you want to expand? Like, were you okay? So let's say we only got a couple minutes left, but I feel like I want to do one more segment because I think we're getting into the juicy. But it's your call. But you know, like with the whole technological advancements in tattooing and designing, did you want to kind of go back to the roots of painting? Relying too like much on digital art?
That is something that I feel strongly about, because I don't rely on digital art. I just recently bought into, the iPad phenomenon. Like,
Oh, really? You weren't rocking an iPad before? That's interesting. I thought you were.
I got one in November, so I'm new to it.
Okay.
Don't you know that
iPad that I
solely
did
makes you
have
a great
before
artist?
was
Yeah.
one of those 6-inch screens, and when I did draw on it, I drew with my finger, like I didn't have a
Nice.
stylus or anything.
Oh, okay.
So I'm new to that, and I do think that is something that a lot of people need to step away from,
Mhm.
just so that that our art remains organic.
Mm-hmm.
Because even when I do draw on my iPad, I find that it looks a little bit more.
Digital.
It's digital. It's not.
Yeah.
It's clean. It's super easy to do symmetrical stuff on it.
Right. It's
Or
such a
to
good
like
cheat.
tweak it.
Right?
But it's a tool. I mean,
Yeah.
we should use all the tools put in front of us.
Mhm.
I think that pencil and paper is like, that's my baby though.
I completely agree with you, and I would hate to. I'd be such a hypocrite because I just bought into it, and honestly, I'm like, I can't believe I didn't
It's a
have one
lifesaver, I
before.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't
Like
know.
not having to tape 18 pieces of tracing paper together just to like change like a tiny leaf. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I don't like the angle of that leaf, so I was, like,
There's
like
something nice though about having a sketchbook that's full of like.
yeah.
You're right.
Oh,
It
of
is.
course.
It's so much. It's
Yeah.
quicker.
Yeah.
It's much quicker.
I mean, I feel like I wouldn't.
I hate resizing.
Yeah.
That is one thing. I
Yeah.
print it out and it's the size of a piece of paper. I'm like, cool, this is a back piece. Now, how much bigger do I?
No, I don't get that either. And that's another thing. Okay, you know what? Let's come back to this. Let's do one more.
Okay.
One more, and then we'll go home. But this is something like this is what I really wanted to talk about with you, and like the processes and things like that. So we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come right back to it.
All right.
Now a word from our sponsors.
You
If we
don't
have
sponsors.
You're gonna sponsor us.
Oh, right. Okay.